And so on that issue of the junior doctor strike, which has started today, I'm going to be speaking to Dr. Laurence Buckman, a former NHS GP. Dr. Buckman, thank you for joining me here on the show. Should people be really worried if they're ill? Should they be worried that if they go to hospital today, tomorrow, during this strike, that they're not going to be treated because there's no doctors there to look after them?
No, they should be careful but not worried. There will be senior doctors available. In an emergency situation, other doctors will turn up if they really have to. So I think anyone who's significantly ill won't suffer badly, but I think routine work in the NHS will probably close down rather earlier for Christmas than it might have done.
Isn't that just, I mean, look, we know junior doctors want a 35% pay rise, and many of our viewers would say it's not unreasonable for them to seek pay restoration. Their argument is that their pay has consistently gone up at a lower rate than inflation. In fact, they need 35% to catch up with where they otherwise would have been. There may be people who are really sympathetic with that, but also, at the same time, we have record waiting lists. We have the winter NHS beds crisis. We have flu. We have COVID coming back. Isn't this deeply, deeply irresponsible for junior doctors to go on strike?
I think it's very sad. I'm not sure if it's deeply irresponsible, and I'll explain why. The NHS has been in deep trouble for a very long time. It precedes the present government and several previous governments, and it's been slowly sliding down the hill towards where I think it is now almost completely broken. And that situation won't change enormously because a bunch of junior doctors are taking 3 days of industrial action. That's not to say that industrial action would be my favoured solution to a problem, but I can see why they do it. This will not make the most enormous difference. Where it will make a difference is that the waiting list, which is already record high, will be a little bit higher, and that won't help people who have to wait longer to have their pain or their chronic illness sorted out. And I think that's very sad.
But isn't one of the challenges, Dr. Buckman, facing the NHS that is a resource challenge? Surely the NHS just can't afford a 35% pay rise for junior doctors, because then it would have to do it for everyone. It would have to do it for nurses, hospital porters, people working in catering in hospitals. Why should junior doctors be a special case? They're an outlier, with most other people working in the public sector having accepted reasonable pay offers made by the government. Why are the junior doctors so special that they should keep striking?
I don't think they are particularly special. I think the rest of the NHS has a pretty sound case for saying they also should have pay restoration. Governments have used NHS pay, remember it's the biggest employer in the UK, have used NHS pay as a device for regulating the economy. They may not set out with that intention, but that's what happens. And so junior doctors, along with many other people, are now seeking pay restoration. I wouldn't suggest for a moment that nurses shouldn't be entitled to a pay rise of a similar nature. What worries me is that the solution to the problem involves talking to people, and when people are not talking, that's never a good idea. But
there has been weeks' worth of talks, and we heard from Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary, who was interviewed on Times Radio, amongst other things this morning. I certainly heard him on Times Radio, that the government has stopped the talks now because the doctors have gone on strike.
Yes, I think, speaking as a former chairman of the UK GPs within the BMA, I like the idea of talking, and I think there is no good argument for not talking. I think it's sad that the juniors have decided to take industrial action and that the government has used that as a pretext for stopping the talks. You're going to have to talk eventually. You might as well talk now. And there is a deal to be done. A deal was done with the consultants, and it can be done with all the other working groups within the NHS. And I think constructive engagement is always better than disengagement in a way that says you've got to wait till the other side gives way. You have to talk to each other to enable a deal to be done.
And Dr. Buckman, despite people's concerns about hospitals not being properly staffed with doctors and shutting down early for Christmas. Does your advice still remain, if people are seriously ill, to call 999?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You should always, if you're in doubt, call for help in an emergency. You will be seen and you will receive treatment.
Dr. Laurence Buckman, thank you so much for giving that reassurance to us and our viewers here on TalkTV.